Discovered. My daughter-in-law's heartwarming audio revealed 5 unexpected truths about my son. Carol's hands trembled as she picked up the dusty recorder from the back of her drawer. The old machine was a relic of her daughter-in-law Lisa's sporadic projects, filled with family stories, laughter, and love. Yet today, as she pressed play, a knot formed in her stomach. It was time to confront the shadows looming over their family. Little did she know, this recording might reveal the truth about Jake, her son, now tangled in webs of disappointment and uncertainty. Hi there. If you're listening to this, it's because I want to share my thoughts on Jake. Lisa's melodic voice rang out, filled with warmth. Carol's heart surged with a mix of hope and fear. What could Lisa say about her son, the man who once wore his achievements like armor? As the words flowed, Carol's initial tension began to melt away, only to be replaced by unease as she heard Lisa describe Jake's secret. After long days at work, he was volunteering at a local food bank. Carol gasped, her heart pounding as revelation hit her like a storm. He's working so hard, yet he never talks about it, Lisa continued. He helps families put food on the table. I wish you could see him, Mom. He's so dedicated. Each word unfurled the truth hidden from Carol. Jake was not the failure she feared he had become. Instead, he was bearing the burden of his own struggles while trying to uplift others. As more recordings played, tears filled Carol's eyes, dropping onto the very machine that unveiled her son's unseen battles. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The heartwarming tales tumbled one after another, painting a picture of Jake that overwhelmed her with pride yet humbled her with regret. For too long, she had only seen a son weighed down by choices that made her anxious. How had she let her concerns blind her to the noble actions he undertook? But tomorrow was family dinner, a chance to mend what was fraying, to communicate and clear the air. She hoped that inclusivity could overcome the discord she had created. But when the dinner table filled with anticipation, tensions exploded. With every clash of words, she saw glimpses of Jake she couldn't fathom until now: hurt, frustration, and a sense of failure. Echoing arguments reverberated in the home that once brimmed with warmth. Carol's heart ached as regret gnawed at her insides. She had misjudged him so severely. Determined to reconnect, Carol made a choice. The next day, she would join Jake at the food bank. The vibrant energy of the bustling center contrasted with her oppressive internal struggle, and as she watched her son, she felt the pieces of her heart reassembling. Seeing him interact, helping those with gratitude in their eyes, filled her spirit with hope. The proud hugs from families he aided painted a picture of his genuine character that she had previously overlooked. As the sun began to set, illuminating her son's silhouette against the backdrop of kindness and love, she felt the weight of her perceived failures lift. Jake was more than a disappointment. He was a pillar of strength in a strife-filled world, yet the space between them felt grim. With tears glistening in her eyes and the question of redemption hanging in the air, Carol knew she had to confront her son once more. Could she bridge this gap? Or would they drift further apart as the sun dipped behind the horizon, leaving only shadows behind? As the last rays of sunlight faded, Carol felt a surge of determination take hold. She took a deep breath, wiping the moisture from her cheeks, and stepped closer to where Jake was distributing boxes of food. He looked so in his element, engaging with people, listening to their stories, offering encouragement. In that moment, she understood the passion and purpose that had been missing from their recent interactions. "Jake," she finally called, her voice wavering slightly as he turned around. A flicker of surprise crossed his face, quickly replaced by a neutral expression that cut through her heart. "Mom?" he asked, his tone carefully measured. There was guardedness there, the result of their disconnected dinner, the echoes of arguments still fresh in his mind. "Can we talk?" Her voice trembled with hope and fear. He hesitated, glancing at the families around them. "Now? Here?" "Yes, please." The urgency in her voice surprised even her, but she felt this was a fragile moment that could slip through her fingers like sand. With a reluctant nod, He led her to a quieter area behind the food bank. There, the sounds of the bustling center faded to a soft hum, leaving only the rustle of paper and distant laughter. Carol's heart raced as she gathered her thoughts, feeling the weight of her past mistakes sitting heavy on her chest. I listened to some of Lisa's recordings, she began, her words tumbling out. I didn't know you were doing all this. Jake's posture softened slightly, but his expression remained cautious. Yeah, something I've been doing for a while now. I misjudged you, Jake. She took a step closer, her sincerity bubbling to the surface. I was so caught up in my worries that I failed to see the amazing things you're doing. I thought you weren't living up to expectations, but I was wrong. A silence enveloped them, as if the world had paused. Jake crossed his arms, the tension in his body still apparent. Mom, it's not about expectations. I'm just trying to make a difference. But I don't need you to validate that. I know. But I need you to know that I see you now. I see the dedication, the kindness. You're not who I thought you were. Tears brimmed her eyes again. But this time they were from a different place: understanding, acknowledgement, love. For the first time, a flicker of vulnerability appeared on Jake's face. It hurts when you don't believe in me, he admitted. I felt like I'm just fighting against a wall. Her heart sank at his words. How had they wandered so far apart? I'm sorry for not recognizing your struggles, Jake. I didn't show up when you needed me the most. He ran a hand through his hair, letting out a breath he seemed to be holding for far too long. I just wanted to make you proud, Mom. But it feels like I keep disappointing you. No, you're not disappointing me. I realize now that I was looking at you through my own fears and insecurities. It was never about you. It was about me trying to understand how to be a mother in a world that changed so much. A spark of understanding crossed his brow, but the silence between them lingered like a heavy fog. Could they truly start over? Suddenly, a small voice interrupted their moment. A little girl had approached, holding a box of food. Her grateful eyes gleamed as she stammered a hesitant thank you to Jake, her innocence bridging the gap that had widened between mother and son. Jake knelt down, engaging with her, his previous tension dissolving into compassion. Watching him, Carol felt something shift inside her. Perhaps this was the first step toward rebuilding their connection. But as they shared a smile with the girl, another heavy thought crept in. Would Jake believe her words? Could they rediscover trust and love in the midst of unspoken pain? As she took in this moment, a gnawing fear returned. Would it be enough? A fresh start, she whispered, almost to herself, uncertainty clinging to the edges of her heart. Tomorrow would be another day, full of possibilities, but would she have the courage to pursue them? As the evening deepened into night, Carol lingered on the memories of their exchange. The way Jake had softened while talking to that little girl filled her with hope. Maybe things could change. She felt a flicker of hope somewhere deep inside her, combating the uncertainties that loomed large in her mind. The food bank around them was slowing down, people packing up and heading home after another evening of serving those in need. The laughter of children faded, replaced by the soft murmurs of families finishing their meals. Carol noticed Jake still kneeling, a mix of total engagement with the girl and a subtle shift in his demeanor as he stood. Something had changed in him, and the sight was both heartwarming and alarming. Mom, Jake said, finally breaking the comfortable silence. I appreciate what you said back there. His voice carried an underlying hesitation, whether from a lingering put-off or the careful optimism from their heartfelt conversation was hard to tell. I mean it, Jake. I never meant to turn my back on you. I just got lost along the way. She crossed her arms against the coolness of the night, suddenly feeling vulnerable. You don't have to explain. I just want you to know I didn't give up on you either. You've been there for me in so many ways without knowing it. He dropped his gaze, the raw honesty evident in his words, and offered a small smile that touched his eyes. It was hard, seeing you struggle through everything without really seeing you, Carol admitted, her voice catching. I wish I could take back all the moments I didn't try harder to understand. Jake met her gaze, and for a fleeting moment, something like hope illuminated his face. That would be nice, but we can't. Maybe what matters is what we do next. He took a deep breath, as if gathering strength from the air around them. I've been thinking I'd like for us to do something together. Not just talk, but actually help out more at the food bank. Maybe even serve meals? Like we did back when I was a kid. His voice was cautious, but there was a spark in his eyes that fueled her optimism. Really? Carol could hardly process the invitation. It was a simple idea, but it felt monumental. You'd want to team up? Yeah. Could be a good way to rebuild, right? Plus it's a good cause. We could start next week. The suggestion lit a fire inside her. Absolutely, I would love that, she said, her heart swelling with excitement at the thought of coming together in service. It felt like a bridge they could both walk across. Jake nodded, looking thoughtful. We might even run into some of the people we helped back then. And who knows, maybe it'll remind us of how far we've come, and how far we can still go. The night air shifted, bringing with it a strange sense of possibility, and for the first time in a long time, Carol envisioned a future where they were working side by side, not just as mother and son, but as equals with shared purpose. As they walked back toward the main area, a louder chatter broke through the comfortable quiet. Carol's thoughts began to wander, veering toward excitement mixed with trepidation. Could it really be this simple? Could helping people really be the key to healing their relationship? But just as her spirits began to rise, a large commotion erupted from a nearby alley. Shadows twisted around the corner, and she caught a glimpse of figures arguing, their voices rising. Carol glanced at Jake. His expression shifted instantly from hope to concern. What was that? He asked, stepping forward instinctively before she could answer. A shout pierced the air, and Carol's heart raced. This moment of connection with her son felt abruptly threatened. What if we get caught in something dangerous? She whispered, anxiety clawing at her insides. Jake turned to her, his resolve hardening. We can't just walk away. We have to check it out. With her heart pounding, Carol knew the stakes had shifted. This night wasn't over, and their commitment to each other might just be about to face its first real test. Would stepping into danger bring them closer, or widen the chasm they had just begun to bridge? Carol swallowed hard, her breath hitching in her throat as Jake stepped forward. The closer he got, the louder the voices became, harsh and accusatory, laced with an urgency that sent a shiver down her spine. Maybe we should call someone, she suggested, desperate to pull Jake back into the safety of uncertainty from the chaos ahead. No. We need to see what's happening, he insisted, eyes fixed firmly on the alley where shadows darted like flickers of lightning in the dark. It was a look she had seen on him many times before. A blend of resolute determination and boyish recklessness that reminded her of the younger Jake. The one who climbed trees too high and dared to jump into very cold lakes just to prove he could. Okay, but let us be careful, she said, fighting against the instinct to hold him back. She was filled with a mixture of fear and admiration for this side of him, the one willing to face the unknown. With a nod of agreement from Jake, they stepped further into the dim light of the alley. The scene revealed itself: a trio of young men, animated and aggressive, surrounded a fourth man who was backed against the cold brick wall. The tension in the air was palpable. Carol's heart raced as she stepped closer, instinctively reaching for Jake's hand. Hey! Jake called out, his voice steady despite the tremor in Carol's grip. The cast of silhouettes turned, startled by their intrusion. The arguing paused, and all eyes darted toward them. What do you want? One of the men spat, the weight of menace woven into his words. Just back off, okay? Jake said, stepping forward, a size unimportant in the face of the threat. Let him go. Mind your own business, kid. Another shouted, taking a menacing step toward Jake. It is our business, Carol found herself saying, her voice penetrating the electric tension. Everyone should feel safe, don't you think? The men exchanged glances, their defensiveness momentarily shaken. The moment felt suspended in time. Jake glanced at her, an invitation to continue. She could see the hesitation in the men, but she felt the pulse of courage rising within her. Don't you remember what it's like to feel scared? Carol pressed, focusing on the young men, hoping to connect with whatever shred of understanding lived beneath their bravado. To feel alone? To need someone to step in? That struck a chord. A flicker of something softened in their eyes, and the leader stepped back slightly. Back off, man. Just leave him alone. Jake urged, keeping his tone steady. What do you care? One of the men challenged, but now his voice faltered. Because you can choose to do better. Carol spoke plainly, her heart hammering, filled with a surge of unexpected clarity. You can choose kindness. You can choose to walk away from this. Suddenly, behind her, A police siren wailed in the distance, cutting through the tension like a knife. It was a sound of both relief and alarm. The young men glanced back, their confidence visibly deflating. "Let us go," Jake said, backing up toward his mother. With one last intense look exchanged, the trio turned and bolted into the shadows, the sound of their hurried footsteps disappearing into the night. The other man, trembling against the wall, took a moment to collect himself before he sank to the ground. "Are you okay?" Carol asked, her motherly instinct taking over. He nodded, still visibly shaken, and Jake stepped closer, offering a hand as they walked back to the food bank. Carol felt a strange mix of emotions. They had faced something raw and real, and although her heart still raced, she felt closer to Jake than she had moments before. "What just happened?" Jake asked, looking over at her with a new depth of understanding written on his face. "I don't know," but Carol felt warmth spreading through her, a tentative hope blossoming once again. "Maybe we can use this experience to help others who feel lost." The thought ignited another spark of inspiration within her. They had yet to find truth in their own story, and maybe tonight was the beginning. But in that moment, just as they reached the entrance of the food bank, another shadow loomed, one that had been overlooked amidst the chaos. The homeless man who had witnessed everything stood in the doorway, eyes wide with an unspoken truth of his own. "What did you do?" he asked softly, and all at once, Carol felt a new challenge rising within the night air. Would they be ready to face it? Jake felt a chill creep up his spine as the homeless man took a step closer, the streetlight flickering overhead casting shadows on the ground between them. Carol squeezed his hand, grounding him amidst the uncertainty. The man's eyes, full of a mix of fear and hope, bore into Jake's soul, as if waiting for answers that neither of them had. "What you did back there? You made a choice," the man continued, his voice raspy but firm. "You chose to stand up. But do you know what that can lead to?" Jake glanced at Carol, her brows furrowed in concern. He could sense her anxiety, but he felt a pull toward this stranger. Something inside him stirred, urging him to listen. "Sometimes making the right choice isn't enough," the man said, folding his arms tightly against himself, a defensive wall against the world. "Sometimes it comes with a price." "What do you mean?" Carol asked, her voice wavering slightly. The man paused, scanning the alley as if the shadows were listening too. "You can't jump into others' fights without knowing the whole story. You might just make it worse." Jake felt his chest tighten. Had they really helped that man they stood up for, or had they opened a door to a bigger problem? Panic threatened to knot his stomach. "Maybe we can," Jake started, but the man cut him off. "They'll come back and you'll have put a target on your back. All for a moment that may not even matter to the person you tried to save." Carol stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tension. "We did what we thought was right. You can't take that away from us." He met her gaze with an intensity that made Jake want to shrink back. "Right and wrong are not always black and white. Sometimes they bleed together. Trust me, I know." A weight hung in the air, punctuated by the distant wail of the police siren still echoing through the alley. Carol's grip tightened on Jake's hand, squeezing reassurance into him. "What's your name?" Jake found himself asking, trying to bridge the unsettling divide. "Ethan," the man replied quietly. "And I've seen things that haunt the streets at night." He took a deep breath, gathering the shards of his story. "One day someone will ask you to step in again. Remember that feeling you had tonight, that rush? It can become an addiction, and that addiction can lead you to places you never wanted to go." Jake thought of the risks they had taken tonight, and the adrenaline mixed with dread made him feel alive and terrified. "Ethan, is there any way we could help you?" Carol asked, her voice laced with empathy. "Help?" Ethan chuckled dryly. "You think it's that easy? You can't just throw kindness and hope at a problem like mine and expect it to stick." His words hung heavily between them. The truth felt like a cold splash of water, hard and unyielding. Jake searched his heart for something to say, but nothing seemed adequate. "Maybe we can try," Jake finally said, a flicker of determination igniting within him. "We'll listen. We'll be here." Ethan's expression softened, and for a brief moment, vulnerability cracked through his guarded exterior. "You'll need to be prepared for the road ahead. It won't be easy, but maybe it will be worth it." As Carol took a step closer, the air buzzed with unspoken resolution. They stood together, Jake sensing a shift in the air around them, The shadows of the alley felt less threatening, more like a doorway to new understanding. "We'll figure it out together," Carol promised, her voice unwavering. Ethan looked at them both, and for the first time, there was a hint of something more than despair in his eyes, perhaps a flicker of hope. Suddenly, Jake felt the weight of what they were initiating. A small spark of purpose pulsed within him, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing at the edge of something immense, something that could alter the course of their lives. As they turned to leave, Ethan's voice echoed behind them. "Good luck, you'll need it." Jake's heart raced as they stepped out into the night. What had they just walked into? Would they truly be able to handle the challenges ahead, or was this just the beginning of a deeper struggle? Carol turned to him, her face illuminated by the streetlight, determination etched in every line. "We can't back down now. Not after everything." "And just like that, we're in over our heads," Jake muttered, a nervous smile breaking through with a shared glance that held both apprehension and resolve. They knew they had crossed a threshold. There was no turning back now. "Let us see where this takes us," he said, heart pounding with both fear and exhilaration. But as the night deepened, just ahead lay silence. What had truly begun was still shrouded in shadows. What other truths were waiting to be discovered in the dark? Jake and Carol walked down the dimly lit street, their shared resolve wrapped tightly around them like a protective cloak. The night felt different now, charged with the kind of energy that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. "What do you think he meant?" Carol asked, her voice quieter now as they moved away from the alley. Her brow furrowed, and the uncertainty in her eyes made Jake's stomach flip. "I don't know. But it felt real, didn't it?" "That something is out there waiting," Jake replied, casting a glance over his shoulder as if expecting Ethan to appear from the shadows again. The streetlight above them flickered, amplifying the weight of the moment. "Yeah, that rush he talked about," Carol murmured. "Is it really so addictive? Helping others? I guess it can be. If it comes with consequences, though, is it worth it?" His thoughts raced. Jake was no stranger to the idea of sticking up for others, but now, after Ethan's warning, it felt heavy. What if they hurt more people in the process? They paused at the intersection, the glow of the streetlight overhead illuminating the unease in the air. "Maybe we should start by learning more about Ethan," Carol suggested, her eyes sparkling with newfound determination. "He knows things about this place we don't. Maybe we can figure out what exactly we're getting into." "Yeah, but finding him might not be easy," Jake said hesitantly. "What if he doesn't want to be found? Or what if he does? Maybe he's just waiting for someone to reach out?" Carol shrugged, her shoulders squared as she spoke. "People don't get helped often. Imagine how that could change someone's life." Jake nodded thoughtfully, the flicker of hope mixed with trepidation. He knew they were venturing onto a tightrope, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were meant to make a difference somehow. They walked slowly, both lost in their thoughts. Suddenly, Jake's phone buzzed in his pocket. He took it out, relieved to see a message from his brother Matt. "You still out?" it read. Jake glanced at Carol, then replied quickly. "Yeah, what's up? Just checking in. Heard sirens earlier. Everything okay?" The worry laced through Matt's message made Jake's heart sink. "Yeah, we're fine. Just ran into someone, a good conversation." Carol's eyebrows raised, and she glanced at Jake, urging him to elaborate. "Not now," he whispered, wanting to protect this moment. But his brother was persistent. The reply pinged in almost immediately. "You okay? You sound a little off." "I'm fine," Jake texted back, but the truth was he felt anything but. With Ethan's warning echoing in his mind, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were now walking a tightrope, balancing between helping and getting hurt. The streets felt more alive as they made their way towards the corner cafe. A cozy vibe had settled into the place, and the warm glow of lights spilled out into the cold night. Inside, the chatter hummed like a familiar song that made the outside world feel remote. They grabbed 2 steaming cups of coffee and settled into a corner booth. As they sipped, Jake's thoughts spiraled back to Ethan. "You think he's seen people like us try to help and fail? Or maybe he's seen the opposite, people who tried to help and succeeded?" Carol offered, her eyes dancing with enthusiasm. "I guess we can only find out by trying. If we're going to navigate this, we should at least be ready to keep an open heart," Jake said, the taste of coffee washing away his earlier anxiety. Just then, a figure caught his attention at the cafe entrance. A woman stumbled in, her face pale, her clothes tattered. As she scanned the room like a deer caught in headlights, Jake felt an instinctual pull toward her. "Jake?" Carol whispered, noticing the shift in his demeanor. "What are you thinking?" Maybe we should help her," he said, adrenaline rushing through him. But would this decision lead to giving a hand or uncovering another layer of complexity that could spiral out of control? The woman's eyes locked with Jake's, and for a brief moment, an unspoken story lingered in the air. Between them, what truth was she hiding, and what would it mean to step in again? The sound of the cafe clinking with cups faded as all he could feel was the weight of that single moment, the choice creeping closer. As the woman took a hesitant step forward, Jake's heart began to race again. What would happen next? Jake's instinct propelled him out of the booth, coffee momentarily forgotten as he approached the trembling woman. The chatter around him faded, swallowed by a heightened sense of urgency. She looked fragile, like a porcelain doll that might shatter if handled wrong. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, his voice softer than usual, for he could see how scared she was. Her eyes darted around the cafe, taking in the unfamiliar faces and then settling back on him. They held a storm of emotions: fear, pain, and something deeper that Jake couldn't quite grasp yet. I need help," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. It was a plea buried under layers of anxiety. "Let us find somewhere quieter." "Can you tell me what happened?" Jake urged gently, gesturing toward the back of the cafe where a small nook nestled between shelves offered some semblance of privacy. The woman nodded slightly, her feet moving before her mind could catch up. Jake couldn't shake the sense that this was a turning point, not just for her but for him and Carol too. Carol had watched silently from her booth, the wariness now replaced by concern. She followed, her determination palpable. "I'm Carol, what's your name?" she asked, attempting to bridge the gap of uncertainty. "Rachel," the woman replied, her body trembling as she finally found a seat. Her hands clutched a backpack to her chest like a life vest in a storm-tossed sea. "What's going on, Rachel?" Jake pressed, gently taking a seat across from her. "You can talk to us." Rachel hesitated, biting her lip as tears pooled in her eyes. "I lost everything. My job, my place, I don't know where to go." Her voice cracked, the facade of toughness crumbling. "I thought maybe I could find someone willing to help out for a night." Carol leaned closer. "You don't have to worry about anything right now. We're here. Jake and I can help, we can figure this out together." Finally, Rachel's defenses broke. "I just need a place to stay for a few days, maybe work for food. I swear I'll find a way to pay you back." The desperation clung to her words, heavy and sad. Jake exchanged a glance with Carol, both of them contemplating the weight of their next move. Helping Rachel could mean welcoming complexity they weren't prepared for. But turning away felt wrong. The air thickened around them. "We can't just leave you like this," Jake said, his heart racing again. Was he ready to open his home to someone he barely knew? Could he handle the complications that came with it? Rachel started to cry quietly, and the sight made his chest tighten. There was a softness in her vulnerability that made him want to protect her. "You shouldn't have to do this alone," he continued, almost more to convince himself than her. Jake, Carol murmured a whisper of caution, but it faded as she saw Rachel's distress. "Let us get you something to eat first, and then we can talk about a place to stay," Jake decided, his resolve solidifying. Every part of him felt the fear of the unknown. But in that moment, something deeper pulled him forward. Rachel nodded, fresh tears escaping down her cheeks, and Jake felt a flicker of warmth in the act of reaching out. It was a little spark, a reminder that kindness could emerge from chaos. As they moved back toward the counter, Carol caught Jake's arm. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, her brows drawn together. "No, but what if it's a chance we can't afford to miss?" he replied, earning a reluctant nod from Carol. They approached the barista and ordered a few warm slices of pie and some drinks, the small act of kindness transforming the atmosphere around them. But as they turned back toward Rachel, he noticed something in her eyes, an unsettling spectrum of hope and fear. What if, in helping Rachel, they were also stepping into a darkness they couldn't escape? Just as they settled back at their table with trays in hand, Rachel's phone buzzed harshly on the table. She glanced at it, panic flooding her face. I can't answer that," she stammered, yet her eyes drifted toward the device like it held all her secrets. The tension in the air shifted. What had she been running from? What would happen if they opened this door? Every heartbeat felt alive with possibility as Jake tried to meet her gaze. What awaited them on the other side of her story? Would it firm their resolve to help or push them further into the abyss? The cafe felt significant now, each moment heavy with meaning. The journey wasn't just about compassion, it was also about the truths waiting to be unveiled, truths that could shatter or strengthen everything they believed. Jake took a deep breath, preparing for the revelations that could change everything. What secrets did Rachel hide? And how would their lives intertwine from that moment onward? The air turned dense, charged with Rachel's palpable fear. She kept her gaze locked on her phone, its relentless buzzing a reminder of a world she was desperate to escape. Jake leaned closer, a surge of protectiveness rushing through him. "Rachel," he urged softly, "you can trust us. Whatever's going on, we'll face it together." The tremor in her hands betrayed her emotions. After a long moment, she finally picked up the phone, staring at the screen as if it were a live grenade. It's my ex," she whispered. He won't stop calling." A shudder coursed through her as she bit back fresh tears. Carol's expression turned serious. "What do you mean he won't stop? Is he threatening you?" The gravity in her voice reminded both of them how quickly situations could spiral out of control. Rachel hesitated, tears spilling over as she wrestled with her story. "He lost it when I left. I was scared for my safety, I thought I could handle it." But she trailed off, her vulnerability filling the space between them. Jake's heart sank. This was more than just needing a roof over her head. "What can we do?" he asked, fear coiling like a snake around his gut. He had a sinking feeling that their simple act of kindness was turning into something much more complicated. Rachel put the phone down, breathing deeply as if each inhale steeled her resolve. "I can delete it. I can block him," she said, clearly seeking affirmation from them. But Jake wanted more than just a quick solution. The weight of her reality pressed on him. "Rachel, blocking him isn't going to change what he might do next. You need help to stay safe." Carol reached across the table, taking Rachel's shaking hands in her own. "You don't have to go through this alone. We can figure this out together," she said, her voice a steady anchor for Rachel. Jake watched as hope flickered back into Rachel's eyes, but unease still lurked in that light. "Really? You'd be willing to help me even with everything?" Rachel asked, her voice trembling. "Absolutely," Jake affirmed, his heart hammering against his chest. "But we need a plan. First things first, we have to get you somewhere safe. If you feel like he's a real threat, we can look into shelters or close off your social media accounts. Whatever it takes." In that moment, Jake felt a new determination settle around him. Despite the risk, it felt right to embrace it. He locked eyes with Carol, who nodded slightly, both of them aware that they were stepping into something much bigger than themselves. Rachel nodded slowly, though doubt still lingered. "But what if he finds me? Or knows where I'm staying?" she murmured, voice cracking. "Then we'll figure it out together." Jake meant it, though fear gnawed at him from within. It wouldn't just be about finding Rachel's safety, it would also be about confronting the fallout of her past. And that could reshape everything they built in their own lives. As they debriefed over pie and conversation, Rachel's phone buzzed again, forcefully demanding attention. Rachel winced, glancing at the screen, her breath catching once more. "Do you want me to answer it?" Jake offered, his heart pounding. "We can call for help together." "No." Panic surged through her eyes. "I can't, not yet." She shoved the phone back into her backpack, as though the pressure of the call might crack her open completely. Carol squeezed Rachel's hands tighter, and Jake felt the urgency thicken in the air. "We need you to feel secure first. Can you stay with us tonight? Just until we figure out the next step?" Rachel's defeated head hung low, but there was a flicker of hope igniting within her at the thought of safety. "Okay," was all she uttered, but it breathed a life into the moment. Jake leaned back, uncertainty creeping in. Could they truly shield her from whatever was waiting in the shadows? As they planned their next moves, he noticed Rachel watching the cafe door nervously, as if expecting someone to walk through a ghost from her past. But before he could ask what haunted her further, Rachel's phone buzzed again. This time, it was accompanied by a secondary notification, one that made her eyes widen in pure terror. What if he knows where I am?" The question lingered thickly in the air as the oppressive weight of their reality settled. As Jake's heart sank with the dawn of a new threat, he realized that their lives had irrevocably merged into an uncertain path. Who or what was coming for Rachel? And were they prepared to face it? Rachel's breathing quickened as she gripped her phone, her knuckles white against the plastic casing. Jake exchanged a worried glance with Carol, the air crackling with an unspoken question. What if that notification was the key to unraveling something darker? Okay, breathe, Jake said slowly, his voice cutting through the tension. We're here with you. Can you show us what it says? Rachel hesitated, glancing down at the screen, the light illuminating her fearful expression. The phone buzzed again as if urging her to act. With trembling hands she unlocked it, her eyes scanning the message. The color drained from her face, and she turned the screen toward them. I know where you are. Her voice was barely above a whisper as she read the words out loud. A chill ran through Jake. Those 3 words carried weight: threat, promise, a twisted sense of power. He shot a glance at Carol, who was already dialed into action mode, her expression hardened. Okay, we need to move. We can't stay here. Rachel's eyes widened. You mean leave? Now? Yes, Jake replied firmly. The urgency of the situation pushed through his nerves, propelling him into motion. We'll take your things and head to a friend's apartment. It's safer than staying here. I can't. Rachel's voice trembled, a million thoughts racing through her mind. What if he's watching? What if? Hey, focus, okay? Carol interrupted gently but forcefully. We'll lock the doors. If he's outside, then he doesn't know where you are. That's a start. Jake nodded, willing confidence into Rachel. He reached for her hands again, grounding her. He's just words on a screen right now. Don't let him take control. Rachel took a deep breath, as if drawing courage from their presence. Okay, let us go. I'll grab my backpack. They moved quickly, gathering Rachel's things in a whirlwind of anxiety and determination. Carol whispered stories of safety and planning while they worked, steadying Rachel's nerves one fragment at a time. In the back of his mind, Jake was hyper-aware of the cafe's entrance. He kept glancing toward it, feeling the presence of unknown dangers looming in the shadows. Each beep from Rachel's phone felt like a countdown, a reminder that time wasn't on their side. Here, Rachel said, returning with her backpack slung over her shoulder. I'm ready. Before we head out, we need to shut off the notifications, Carol suggested. He might be tracking your location. As Rachel fumbled with her phone, Jake took a step back, scanning the cafe. Every face seemed on edge. He felt the weight of staring eyes, judgment lurking where comfort had existed moments ago. Don't look so worried, Rachel said, forcing a weak smile as she finished turning off her notifications. We're going to be okay. But the tremor in her voice betrayed her, and Jake's resolve tightened in his gut. Let us do this, he said, leading the way toward the exit. They approached the door, hearts racing as they stepped into the cool evening air. Jake felt a mix of dread and relief wash over him. Fresh air, more uncertainty. But he couldn't let Rachel see his fear. He had to project strength. Suddenly, the unmistakable sound of a motorcycle roared to life nearby. Rachel froze, her eyes darting toward the source. Jake's heart dropped. Could it be? Go. Now, Carol urged, pushing Rachel forward. They broke into a sprint down the street, the cafe fading behind them. As they rounded the corner, Jake glanced back, eyes searching the parking lot. There was a figure on the motorcycle, the glare of the lights cutting through the twilight. Rachel's phone went off again. His heart raced. They needed to get away and fast. What would happen next? What forces were set into motion as they ran for their lives? And would Rachel's past finally catch up to her? The uncertainty lingered as they hurried into the dim light of the next street, shadows stretching behind them, a reminder that this was only the beginning of a long, harrowing journey. Jake, Carol, and Rachel dashed down the quiet street, the echoes of their hurried footsteps a frantic symphony against the night's stillness. The low rumble of the motorcycle faded behind them, but the rising panic in Rachel's eyes reminded them of the storm ahead. Just keep moving, Jake urged, glancing over his shoulder again. We have to find a place to hide. Each word felt heavy, filled with the weight of uncertainty. Carol's grip on her phone tightened, her mind racing through emergency plans. I know a family friend who has a spare room. We can go there, it's safe. She spoke quickly, the clarity amidst chaos a lifeline. Rachel nodded, her breaths coming in short bursts. Okay, just tell me where to go, she said, trying to draw resolve from her companions. Follow me, Carol shouted, breaking into a sprint. They turned sharp corners, navigating the familiar streets, past stores that boasted bright neon lights, now merely background noise swirling in their frantic thoughts. Jake felt a mix of fear and adrenaline pumping through him, the urgency to protect Rachel igniting something deep within him. Do you think he's after us? Rachel gasped, her breath hitching in her throat. We won't let him, Jake promised, knowing the vow needed as much conviction as the reassurance that followed. After what felt like hours, they finally reached the small apartment tucked away in a quiet alleyway. Carol knocked on the door, her heart racing as though they could hear the thump of its echo. The door opened swiftly, and Jane, a warm, familiar face, peered out, her expression shifting to concern as she took in the scene. What happened? She asked, ushering them inside quickly. As the door clicked shut, Rachel collapsed against the wall, her eyes wide with a fear only partly tamed. Jake felt the air shift and crackle with tension as they explained, laying bare the cold realities they had uncovered. They were Rachel started, but words faltered as tears brimmed her eyes. I can't do this anymore. Carol stepped closer, her heart swelling with empathy. You're safe here. Jane will help, and we will figure this out together, she gently assured. The warmth of her voice wrapped around Rachel like a blanket. Jake moved to Rachel's side, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder, feeling that familiar pulse of hope flickering in the depths of their struggle. You're not alone. We're in this together, he echoed softly, wanting so deeply for her to believe that their strength was a collective shield. With every word spoken, Jake felt the tension lessen, but the shadows still loomed large. Rachel looked at both of them, vulnerability etched across her features. What if he finds me? Her voice faltered, and fear threatened to unravel all they had built in this moment. We'll take every precaution, Carol said, pulling Rachel into a supportive embrace. You deserve to feel safe. We'll keep you safe. You have a chance right now, Jake added, feeling determined. This is a new beginning. You can choose to reclaim your life, Rachel. Time seemed to still as Rachel processed their words, the weight of her fears colliding with the flickering light of hope they presented. I want to be better, she whispered, tears slipping down her cheeks as she nodded, with Jane tending to their needs, tea steaming in hand. Heart softened under the warmth of compassion. Jake cast a glance at the window, still half expecting a shadowy figure to emerge. But instead, he saw the night lit up by stars, and a deepening sense of belonging filled the room. They spent the next hours plotting, brainstorming defenses, and discussing next steps. Rachel shared more of her past, the moments that led her here, her fears like heavy stones she was finally ready to lay down. The raw honesty acted like a balm, healing old wounds, bringing them that much closer. With laughter and conversation filling the air, they forged an unbreakable bond, a fierce community bound by compassion and resilience. Tomorrow we'll look for resources, Jake said, feeling strength blooming inside him. Shelters that can offer you support, a way to reclaim your independence. Rachel nodded, hope glimmering like a lighthouse in an ocean of uncertainty. Yes, I'd like that. As the night drew on and laughter echoed through the small apartment, for the first time in a long while, Rachel felt like she was truly seen and heard. As dawn approached, the first light seeping through the windows, it symbolized new beginnings. A fresh horizon was ahead. In that moment, Jake realized they had faced danger and found strength in vulnerability, that helping others often meant helping themselves too. As they brushed their teeth side by side in the tiny bathroom, Jake couldn't help but smile into the mirror, the weight of uncertainty having transformed into a shared determination. And just like that, they were ready. With hope surging, they faced the world and its challenges together, side by side. Now, with this powerful story reaching an end, it's time for you to take action. You need to subscribe now to our channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive adventures filled with inspiration. Leave a like now to help feed the algorithm and make sure these uplifting stories keep shining bright. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.